Hi artists, this is the final video for our project, and although I still want to work through my landscape, I'm going to now, at the same time that I'm putting finishing touches here, I'm going to shift my thinking into text. And so when we think about how Wayne incorporates text into his word paintings, you want to really think about the font, the color, if there are reflections, things that need to be added sort of as if they're part of the landscape. And also you want probably at a minimum 2 versions of whatever your main color is so that you can show a thickness or a depth. And a great way to plan out words is taking back this, which was from your original frame. It's the perfect size. What I did with mine is I just flipped it over, got myself a meter stick, and I did a vanishing point to this corner here for really large text. Now, I'm not convinced that I want this down low, kind of like so, but I've drawn it where I can move this around, imagining how it might be. I could even cut this out and lay things over my composition. But if you wanted to use this full sheet as a guide, or even place your words where they go, that makes it really easy when you go to paint onto the plexiglass sheet. Another great option for paper to plan out your text, if you don't want to use this, is just using some 11 by 17 larger printer paper. And what's nice with that is you can either print out your text using a font or using an image or some other reference, or you can just sketch right onto it. And it's really good either height-wise, like I've done here, or width-wise to place underneath. A quick little note about details of text. So for 3D letters, you might be, I've put things on an angle in both cases, right? And so to do that, I've just used a ruler and measured things on one end and then gone up about halfway or more and had those angles be consistent. Your word might be curving like this. Your word might be disappearing quickly and making it harder and harder to read. But when you go to add the thickness, here is what I'm going to suggest, and I'll try to trace over just this part here in Sharpie to kind of talk you through that. So once you have your word in letters in the way you want, I always think about what I call a drop shadow. So that's where, if you're really looking, I've added pencil lines here. I've come to one side or the other, and I've dropped down, or I could go up above. So in this case, you can see how I've gone off to the left, and I've just tried to keep that thickness, okay, really consistent. So I kind of go through on the left-hand side of every letter, and I add that in, okay? But then when I really look at words, they also will have that thickness from this other side of the letter in some cases. So like in the D, in the U, in the other U. And a really helpful thing is to start by angling down from the very top corner of any, sorry, it's hard to hold it close, the top corner of any given letter. There's that consistent angle, 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 angle. And so doing those in the right thickness can also really help you to keep everything consistent, to keep things like where you add that thickness and it feels believable and it feels good. I might end up wanting to do this whole long phrase, and even if I didn't, I'm sort of a fan of this smaller size text for within my landscape. So I'm going to use this as my example to move to the plexiglass sheet, but take your time, right? Really figure out your word style, your word placement, and then also your color palette. All right, you're gonna grab, once you have your base plan, take your plexiglass back and just peel the coating off of at least one side. You could peel it off of both sides, but peel it right off where you're gonna be painting. okay? And then this is the part that might take a little bit of imagination using your landscape, right? What's nice is when we display this, you have your landscape, you're gonna have your text that can come and go, but you might just kind of, with a little bit of, I don't know, white paint. Okay, I'm just taking some white paint here, or with a paint pen, kind of get an idea of like, right, I think I want Delulu in the center of the sky. I'm gonna mark off for myself lightly where I see my horizon line. So I don't know if you can tell. I've marked my horizon line right here. I've marked the center there, and that's kind of helping me to place my text plan in a way that makes me happy underneath. Okay, great. So if this is now where I have work, I can then choose, do I want to use the same acrylics we've been using, okay? Or, again, I said you should have sort of a lighter and a darker color or similar colors at minimum. You might be doing multicolor letters. So I could use the paint pens or I could use paint. I'll quickly show you how that might work for both. And then I want to keep a few brushes handy for those final details and those touch-ups. So obviously for the paint pens, I'm going to use the thicker side here. Okay, you might grab one, test it out on your wax, make sure that there's kind of enough of that color that the tip hasn't been damaged. I'm okay on that. I don't love it. This one's a little worse off. So it may take a bit of digging through and then holding on to that. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that one. So I'll go with this for a part of my word, okay? And then I'll show it in paint. So what's nice once you have this plan is now you can just come in, and it feels a little strange at first working on the plexi, but trust this process. Like I've been saying all the way along, I'm gonna just follow my letters as closely as I can. I can always come in. I might recommend doing a second coat or doing touch-ups, especially if you're using the paint marker. I just find they can be a little streaky. If you make a mistake while doing this, I've found some success with scraping it back using a fingernail, using a toothpick. If it's still wet, you can get in there with paper towel, with water. Okay, so I would keep on going, and then I would come in and add my shadows. So for that, I think I'm gonna go with this turquoise color here. Okay, so just getting a nice small, I find a square brush could help for lettering, especially if you're kind of doing these block type letters. Ideally, I would allow this to dry before I kept on going, but I'm just wanting to give you a very quick version of the effects. And so I'm working carefully, nice thin application of the paint at first, knowing I can come in looking closer, okay, looking at that brush. But now I'm starting to at least get a sense of that letter shape, a sense of the 3D, and sort of that two-tone classic look. Okay. So just kind of have done 3 letters there. I will keep going, but just to sort of have everyone see how beautifully that comes out on the plexi. It's a nice, fun little trick. And then you can compare as you're working, how does that feel over the landscape? Okay, so this process, I would definitely give yourself a couple of classes working through it. And then the finishing touches is to not just have this feel completely apart. So something that I might do in addition to this is once I have the letters in, I'm gonna come back in, I'm gonna see, is there anywhere where maybe the letters are sort of casting a bit of like this same turquoisey color, like down here in the landscape. Okay, in the sky, wherever it is, I might come and darken underneath the letters, or even do some shading, or like I said, even some highlights on the letters. So to just really make that text as detailed as anything else. And so it doesn't just have to be the text, it can be other kind of, right, more painterly information that creates that effect that Wayne does, the shadows, highlights, and making it a part of your composition. So good luck working on your text. Start on paper, get going on your plastic, and have fun.